Nutrients, soil and plant tissue analysis are the most reliable basis for the design of a well-balanced fertilizer program. Water. Over and underwatering combined with drainage of the growing medium are arguably the most common cause of problems with plant development. Light intensity. Light intensity must be adequate since it is absorbed by the chlorophyll molecule and converted to heat energy which drives photosynthesis. Low light intensity in seedling production facilities results in etiolation or stem elongation and soft seedlings. pH or potential of hydrogen. pH levels should be close to neutral. Too high and too low affects the availability of essential nutrient to plants. Temperature. Along with levels of light, carbon dioxide, air humidity, water, and nutrients, temperature influences plant growth and ultimately crop yields. All these factors should be in balance. Temperature influences the plant in the short term as well as the long term. Asexual and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction involves one parent and produces offspring that are genetically identical to each other and to the parent. Sexual reproduction involves two parents and produces offspring that are genetically unique. Sexual reproduction helps create genotypes that are better able to survive across different environments. In contrast, asexual reproduction yields types that are suited to only one environment. Therefore, sexual reproduction is better in changing environment. Bryophytes. Bryophytes are the most primitive of the plant groups. They do not have real roots and lack vascular tissue. They live in moist conditions close to water. Water is needed for reproduction and fertilization. Water transports the male sperm to the female egg. They reproduce asexually or sexually. Spores are formed for reproduction. Pteridophytes or ferns. Pteridophytes or ferns are the next plant group. They have real roots and a vascular tissue. They live in moist conditions close to water, not as close as the bryophytes. Water is still needed for fertilization and reproduction. They are sometimes called cryptogams, meaning their means of reproduction are hidden. They produce sexually and asexually. Spores are formed for reproduction. Gymnosperms. Gymnosperms are the next plant group. They have real roots and a vascular tissue. They, however, don't need to live near moist areas. Water is needed for fertilization, but not for reproduction. Wind and other animals are able to carry the seeds to disperse them. They produce sexually. They have seeds instead of spores, but are naked, meaning that they are not covered by fruit. Angiosperms. Angiosperms are the least primitive plant group. They have real roots and a vascular tissue. They can produce flowers. They don't need to live in moist areas. Water is needed for fertilization but not for reproduction. Wind and other animals are able to carry the seeds to disperse them. They produce sexually. They have seeds instead of spores, but they are not naked because they are covered by fruit. How flowering plants reproduce. Reproduction in flowering plants begins with pollination, the transfer of pollen from anther to stigma on the same flower, or to the stigma of another flower on the same plant, or from the anther on one plant to the stigma of another plant. Once the pollen grain lodges on the stigma, a pollen tube grows from the pollen grain to an ovule. Two sperm nuclei then press through the pollen tube. One of them unites with the egg nucleus and produces a zygote. The other sperm nucleus unites with two polar nuclei to produce an endosperm nucleus. The fertilized ovule develops into a seed.